Hello, and welcome to the Emissaries of the Gospel podcast, where we fight the darkness wherever it is prevailing. My name is Jeremy Brown, and I'm your host. And today we'll be talking about Idaho's ban on baby murder. I use the actual terminology because YouTube restricts or removes videos that use the A word. Before we talk about that specifically, I wanted to go over some passages with you. For starters, Proverbs 17:15. He who justifies the wicked and he who condemns the righteous are both alike an abomination to the Lord. Proverbs 11:1. A false balance is an abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight. Proverbs 20:10. Unequal weights and unequal measures are both alike an abomination to the Lord. Proverbs 20:23. Unequal weights are an abomination to the Lord, and false scales are not good. Psalm 94:21. They band together against the life of the righteous and condemn the innocent to death. Job 34:17. Shall the one who hates justice govern? Will you condemn him who is righteous and mighty? I include these passages just to get you thinking about what God has declared to be justice for all people at all times, what God says about condemning the innocent or justifying the wicked, namely that it's an abomination, and what God says about unequal weights and measures. Again, it's an abomination. And then as we're going through this, I encourage you to think in terms of equal justice. What is equal justice? How does that apply to what we're going to discuss? So in today's episode, I'm going to focus on an article which was recently released by MSN.com, which is titled "More than 50 Obstetricians Have Stopped Practicing in Idaho Since Abortion Ban or Baby Murder Ban." Right. I will include a link in the description. Now, before we continue, I want to take a moment to ask that if you haven't already, that you like this video and subscribe to the channel and click on the notifications bell to be notified whenever we release a podcast. This helps the ministry and the channel. And without further ado, just a little bit about the article and the background of it. The U.S. Supreme Court on Friday, January 5th, ruled to allow Idaho's Defense of Life Act to go into effect, which criminalizes many acts of baby murder, and agreed to hear an appeal in the case, scheduling arguments for April. In August of 2022, the Biden administration sued to block the law. They argued that the state statute conflicts with the Federal Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act. That law requires hospitals to provide necessary stabilizing treatment, which is defined broadly when the health of the mother is in danger, which is also defined very, very broadly. So any kind of health concern, even if it's long-term, it doesn't have to be deadly, doesn't even have to be debilitating, would qualify. And the claim, obviously, is that murdering a baby in the womb is necessary to stabilize the health of the mother. And that is a complete farce. It's even abortionists, those who have never repented, come to Christ, those who are pro-choice, even they have said that the life of the mother is never in danger and needing an abortion, like baby murder, to resolve that. I'm going to have difficulty not saying that word, so let's just hope that YouTube doesn't strike me. But if they do, I may have to go back and edit this out. Obviously, that claim is fallacious. But the decision was briefly overturned by a 3-judge panel in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. But the full Ninth Circuit quickly reversed that ruling, and then the Supreme Court intervened, and that was to allow Idaho's Defense of Life Act to take effect, and agreed to hear an appeal in April, as I said. The order could have widespread effects. When I say that, the order from the Supreme Court could have, because it would empower other states to establish equal justice and protect the lives and rights of preborn infants. Now, the pros and cons of the bill. It states that the removal of a dead fetus, a dead baby, or the removal of ectopic or molar pregnancies, which occur when a fertilized egg implants in an area outside of the uterus, are not considered abortions. So let's kind of separate this a little bit. Removing or evacuating a baby that's already dead is always not considered baby murder, right? By definition, the child is already dead, and you're just evacuating them, right? And generally speaking, you're taking no action against the child, but you're doing it for the benefit and to save the mother, right? So, um, you know, that goes. I want to say that goes without saying, but I guess you have to say that now. You have to be clear about that because there's so much propaganda out there and so many people are confused. A lot of people, it surprises me, don't know that. Um, Now, when it talks about the removal of ectopic pregnancies, I did want to state that um, the procedure for ectopic pregnancies, and I've seen this from many medical professionals, is a wait and see approach. It is wrong patently to assume that that's automatically a death sentence. In fact, often, um, even if they rupture a tube, they're often not fatal. But a lot of times, as they wait and see, there's no treatment, no special treatment that they have to do in terms of interfering with the baby and whatnot. However, most of the time, when they're discovered, the baby is already dead, or if you evacuate the baby, even if you try to preserve the life of the baby, they, they can't survive, right? So there's no need for baby murder here, the A word. There's no need for that whatsoever, and the overwhelming majority of the times, it's an already dead child or an already dead fetus, and so it couldn't be considered murder, and so or a crime. So I think that goes without saying, but I just wanted to clarify that and say that that's actually a good part of this bill. Although I would say that if you remove any ectopic pregnancy that you don't have to, that would be not in accordance with what has already been demonstrated to be the better method of care, which is the wait and see approach, the careful observation, careful and close observation, so that you try to preserve the lives and engage in surgery minimally. You don't want to assume the worst and just go in and take measures that would harm that baby if it's not necessary, absolutely necessary. So, other comments on this, the MSN.com article claimed that Idaho banned nearly all of the A word, baby murder, after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade in 2022. Idaho makes it a crime with a prison term, this is according to the article, of no less than 2 years and up to 5 years. The article says up to 5 years. The bill says no less than 2 years for anyone who performs or assists in an A word, right, in baby murder. So what that means is it's not treating the crime of terminating a pregnancy as murder. The penalty is completely unjust and it trivializes the matter. Essentially, you're catechizing people into treating this as a minor issue or no issue at all, right? And that's wrong. Think equal weights and measures here. Also realize that this is referring to the abortionist only and those who work at the surgical abortion facility with them, as we're going to see, and it does not include mothers or fathers who participate in that, or really any other party but essentially the staff at these surgical baby murder clinics. And so, calling into question the veracity of the claim made by MSN.com that nearly all abortions are banned. Couple reasons for this. It says, well, let me just back up and say, before we get into the exceptions given in the law, which already rule out equal justice, we can look at the biggest source of the A word, the biggest source of baby murder, and it's the hardest of the forms to quantify, and that's birth control. It's a fact that all hormonal birth control methods, the depot shot, IUDs, and so forth, they're all abortifacients, and they cause babies who have been conceived to be killed before they can implant to the uterine wall. So according to Jeremy Klein, MD, when he was writing to American Family Physician, says it should be noted that emergency contraception is an unsatisfactory term because it may give the impression to the layperson that a conception is reliably being prevented. Conception may be prevented when OCPs or Previn are used, but as noted earlier, prevention of implantation is also a possible mechanism of action. Depending on the timing of administration of the medication, it may even be a more likely mechanism. Prevention of implantation is nearly certain when an intrauterine device is used, making emergency contraception an even more inappropriate term. So, why does that matter? Because the bill includes language stating that birth control methods, including the pill and IUDs, are not considered violations of the state abortion law, or baby murder law. Let's consider the scriptures that we read earlier, and also the following. Genesis 9:6. Whoever sheds the blood of man, by man shall his blood be shed, for God made man in his own image. So God is saying right here that anytime you murder, anytime you take an innocent human life, that the suitable and appropriate penalty, the just penalty, is that your blood be shed, because the reason being is that all human beings are made in God's own image. Proverbs 6:16-17. There are 6 things that the Lord hates, 7 that are an abomination to him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood. Deuteronomy 19:10. Lest innocent blood be shed in your land that the Lord your God is giving you for an inheritance, and so the guilt of bloodshed be upon you. Exodus 20:13. You shall not murder. Psalm 106:38. They poured out innocent blood, the blood of their sons and daughters, whom they sacrificed to the idols of Canaan, and the land was polluted with blood. Exodus 23:7-8. Keep far from a false charge, and do not kill the innocent and righteous, for I will not acquit the wicked. And you shall take no bribe, for a bribe blinds the clear-sighted and subverts the cause of those who are in the right. Deuteronomy 27:25. Cursed be anyone who takes a bribe to shed innocent blood, and all the people shall say, Amen. And Proverbs 24:11. This is a command. Rescue those who are being taken away to death. Hold back those who are stumbling to the slaughter. Now, this list is in no way exhaustive, but you can see that the Word of God's abundantly clear, and it's consistent on the matter, and it gives us a complete understanding of how to view the issue, laws surrounding the issue, punishments, and so forth. Everything gives us a complete worldview on that issue. Now, I did want to mention the political motivations of these doctors that are moving out of Idaho, right? From the article, post-Roe. So this is not even just dealing with this Idaho law, although it is included in their reasoning. But it says, post-Roe, many maternal care doctors in restrictive states are deciding whether to stay or go. They weigh tough questions about medical ethics. So weighing the tough ethical question about whether or not to murder, and if that lines up with the Hippocratic Oath, no doubt. Again, from the article, Dr. Kylie Cooper, a maternal fetal specialist, left Idaho last year. She said that at the time it was a very difficult decision, but she and her family needed to be where they felt reproductive health care was protected and safe. Now, don't take the bait there, or allow yourself to be manipulated by language like reproductive health care, right? The left and the wicked, they always like to change the dictionary, right? So they can take an act of murder, and instead of that, murdering a baby in the womb, they can't just outright go and say that. So they have to use euphemisms for it, right? Euphemisms that sound good. So who's going to object to care, right? You're caring. Isn't caring being loving and kind and good, right? So healthcare, especially, who objects to healthcare? What are you, a heartless barbarian, right? Reproductive, right? It's actually talking as though they're trying to encourage reproduction. Reproduction has already happened, and you're killing the baby, right? So the term reproductive health care, when used as a euphemism for the A word, is wretched, disgusting, and deceptive. More deceptive tactics. The article says only 22 of 44 counties in Idaho have access to any practicing obstetricians. It stated about 85% of obstetricians and gynecologists in Idaho practice in the 7 most populous counties. Well, that makes it sound terrible that, about half of Idaho just can't get health care. They can't get access to an OBGYN, right? So the two aren't inherently related. You might already be doing the logic in your mind, but how much of Idaho's population are in those 7 counties, right? How far is it to travel to the nearest county with an obstetrician? Not every county everywhere has a quality hospital, or even a hospital at all. Often you have to drive or be transported to the next county over, precisely due to the fact that it's not feasible to have a hospital in less populated areas, and obviously the same is true with specialists' clinics. So I looked up, and 15 counties in Idaho have under 10,000 people. One of those counties has 756 people. These numbers come from the U.S. Census Bureau. So 15 of the 22 counties referenced don't even have a total population as large as some small cities. Holland, Michigan, here in western Michigan, by comparison, has a population roughly comparable to the 7 least populated counties in Idaho. And Holland is far from being the most populated in Michigan. Holland ranks about 51st in the entire state in terms of population. So the statistic is deceptive in the wording, and it's an effort to make you think that half the state is being prevented from seeing an OBGYN. That's simply misleading and foolish. Then the article goes on to say that data also shows Idaho is at the 10th percentile. They bold this, of maternal mortality outcomes, meaning 90% of the country has better maternal and pregnancy outcomes than Idaho. Well, that makes it sound like this is an exceedingly dangerous place to be pregnant and give birth to a child, right? But let's look at the facts. So, for starters, the state with the worst maternal mortality outcomes, Arkansas, has approximately 1/20th of 1% as the maternal mortality rate. And I'd like to see that at 0%, of course, right? But let's not make this seem like it's substandard care across the states here. The statistics, by the way, that I just read were compiled by World Population Review and NPR.org. And per the CDC, Idaho's numbers are about 1.6 thousandth of a percent. That's the maternal mortality rate there. So just fallacious, ridiculous fear-mongering. Again, from the article, it says, in a time when we should be building our physician workforce to meet the needs of a growing Idaho population and address increasing risks of pregnancy and childbirth, Idaho laws that criminalize the private decisions between a doctor and patient have plunged our state into a care crisis that, unchecked, will affect generations of Idaho families to come. That's from a quote from Dr. Caitlin Gustafson, an OBGYN and the board president of the Idaho Coalition for State Healthcare Foundation, said in the news release. This is according to the MSN.com article. Now, First thing, murder is being classified as a private decision between a doctor and mother conspiring to do the heinous deed. That's according to Dr. Caitlin Gustafson, apparently. Also note the use of hysterical language designed to fearmonger, right? Making it sound like there's a health crisis when clearly there is not any kind of health crisis there, and it's simply much ado about nothing. Unfortunately, despite the hysteria, the bill doesn't actually truly criminalize abortion. That's the problem. For starters, doctors, women, and coercive men alike, they can all access forms of abortifacients to kill babies in the womb with absolute impunity. Right? Abortifacients are not touched at all. On its face, that alone makes this law an abomination. Title 18, Chapter 6, Subsection 5 makes it clear that women can still have abortions with absolute impunity. Not one mother whatsoever need fear any legal repercussions for her actions. The language is completely unambiguous. Rape and incest exception provisions are wide enough to drive a dump truck through. And not only do they make this law an abomination by condemning the innocent baby to death for the sins of his or her father, but they also are an abomination because abortions in these cases typically protect rapists and abusers. I'm going to wrap this up by reading some passages here. Isaiah 5, 20 through 24 says, "Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Woe to those who are wise in their own eyes and shrewd in their own sight. Woe to those who are heroes at drinking wine and valiant men in mixing strong drink, who acquit the guilty for a bribe and deprive the innocent of his right. Therefore, as the tongue of fire devours the stubble, and as dry grass sinks down in the flame, so their root will be as rottenness, and their blossom will go up like dust, for they have rejected the law of the Lord of hosts, and have despised the word of the Holy One of Israel." Isaiah 1:4 and also Isaiah 1:13 through 17. "Ah, sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity, offspring of evildoers, children who deal corruptly. They have forsaken the Lord. They have despised the Holy One of Israel. They are utterly estranged. Bring no more vain offerings. Incense is an abomination to me. New moon and Sabbath and the calling of convocations. I cannot endure iniquity and solemn assembly. Your new moons and your appointed feasts my soul hates. They have become a burden to me. I'm weary of bearing them. When you spread out your hands, I will hide my eyes from you. Even though you make many prayers, I will not listen. Your hands are full of blood. Wash yourselves, make yourselves clean, remove the evil of your deeds from before my eyes. Cease to do evil, learn to do good, seek justice, correct oppression, bring justice to the fatherless, and plead the widow's cause." So we can't be like the men God describes in Isaiah 5, who are wise in their own eyes and shrewd in their own sight. We can't be playing political pragmatism and political polytheism with baby murder. We can't be justifying the mothers as if they're victims, nor should we be seeking to end the A word, baby murder, and preserve life by ingratiating ourselves to them at the sake of babies' lives. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if we said that rapists are victims too? Who knows why they did what they did and what drove them to rape that woman? Their culture has told them that sex with whomever you want is a human right. They've been shamed and called incels, perverts, and abusers. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine not classifying rape as a felony on par with murder because such a ludicrous argument? That's what we've done with baby murder, right? And that's what needs to change. The way we're going to change the minds of the pro-choicers is first to change the heart and mind attitudes of pro-life people within our churches. This is including our Reformed churches, right? We need to establish equal justice here and completely criminalize the A word, completely criminalize baby murder in all circumstances. God is clear. His word is unambiguous on the subject. Let's remember to be innocent as doves and not approve of abomination in our laws when we seek to be wise as serpents. As always, I'm going to welcome and appreciate your feedback, your questions, and your objections. You can reach out to me here on this channel or also on the Facebook page. So until next time, have a blessed Lord's Day tomorrow, and God bless.